Hello everyone, welcome back to the 3-year Korean update video, which I promised you guys in my last video where I did a 2.5 year update, and the views did quite well on that one, so I suppose I will do another one today, letting you guys know what has been going on throughout my journey. So yeah, I suppose we'll just crack on and get right into it. So the first, I've made some notes by the way guys, so I'm just going to be looking over here, checking my notes and reading as I go through. So hopefully that's not too awkward for you. So I started learning Korean on March 2020, so this was 3 years ago, right? For those of you guys who don't really know, you can go and watch one of my first videos or my second update video and I talk about it in detail. But basically I was at home in the UK learning by myself for about a year and a half. Then after I'd got some level of comprehension using this immersion learning method, I was able to graduate high school and go and do a uni course in Seoul in Korea. So that's what I've been doing for the past year and a half to 2 years, and that is how I've been sort of conducting my life. In the last video I talked about, my comprehension being where it is. Nowadays it's about sort of when I read a book, there's one word that I won't know on a page. So that's like not too bad, right? Maybe 1 to 2, depending on what sort of book we're reading. For the most part, it's about, 1 word per page. I don't know. Not too bad level of comprehension, if you don't mind me. So why I haven't been doing much Anki. So Anki, you guys probably know if you've seen my other videos, you know what Anki is, right? Flashcard system, app that you use to learn Korean words or words of any other language for that matter. I stopped using it, right? A couple months after I finished my last update video. The reason I stopped using it was just kind of out of not being in the habit of using it and not really scheduling it into my day, because time I put into that, I'd rather just put into reading and just get more knowledge anyway, because I'm at the level in Korean, guys, where it's I'm not gonna say similar to English, but it's a medium that I can do other things in now comfortably, like read books, whereas I'm not still in that sort of learner, they call it sucky phase in AKATT, right, where you're just kind of bad. Kind of surpassed that level of feeling like it's a chore, feeling like it's because my Korean's too bad that I can't do this. I've kind of surpassed that completely. Now I'm learning sort of new words which better me, sure, but it's not a complete game changer. I've kind of got to that point that Matt vs. Japan talked about of diminishing returns, where you get to a certain point and it's like the vocabulary you learn from here on out is cool, it makes you sound more native and it makes you perhaps more descriptive in certain areas, but for the most general basic things that you're going to be doing, it doesn't really cause any sort of hindrance. That's the sort of stage that I'm at in terms of comprehension. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's a nice place to be. I do have ambitions of doing great things in Korea. Like, one of the things I've had in my mind lately is just becoming like a writer, or someone who's like, there's a word for it and I forgot the word, where it's someone who writes in the foreign language and still, produces books and just like gets people to look over them. And wouldn't it be really cool, guys, if you could produce some sort of piece of work, like a book, or I don't know, perhaps a long form video, where it really just changes the minds of all these other people who have not been able to get the perspective from, say, the British culture like I've been raised in, right? There's just a lot of things that I feel like I could do that might have a bigger impact on the world, which is not how I was looking at life a few years ago, right? Because I wasn't really in that developed stage that I'm at now in terms of, self-improvement and all these other habits, which I can get onto in just a moment. I have not been using the internet as much as I used to, so when you're learning a language using the immersion learning method, they often tell you to consume as much media as possible, do anything and everything in Korean, which is the best for your Korean, but not necessarily the best for self-improvement and psychological well-being, because you're sitting at home all day just watching TV, not really doing much. Whereas now I'm at that point of, I've got my Korean where it needs to be. I can improve from here just by reading books and doing audiobooks. So I don't actually need to engage myself in any sort of Netflix or media where it's perhaps not the most productive thing you could be doing, right? I'm not saying books are super productive, but they can teach you a lot more than just whatever you're watching on Netflix. I mean, we can have that argument, but the knowledge you find in books is usually of higher level, usually takes more brain power to consume, and then you learn more as a result of that. I personally think books are better than standard media. Like, wouldn't you guys agree? Like, if you were, say, just a native English speaker and you didn't care about learning any other languages, watching TV all day versus reading books all day, which do you think is probably going to be beneficial to you in the long term? Probably books, right? So books is awesome. Books are awesome. Grammar. So I've got my books over here which I want to introduce, so I'll let you guys know what I've been reading and what I've been up to. So the first one is How to Win Friends and Influence People, is the English title, and I've just been going through, reading it, underlining some words that I don't know, and you can see, probably can't see. Basically, this new method of note-taking that I learned from this Korean professor was every 2 pages you should take a keyword for what you've just read. So 2 pages I'll do a keyword, another 2 pages I'll do a keyword, and I keep keyword and keyword until I've got to the end of the chapter, and at the end of the chapter I will list all my keywords, then write a short sort of paragraph summary of what I've read. And this is really good for getting that knowledge summarized into your brain so you can teach it to other people. I found that really useful. Because I'm doing it in Korean, I guess I am outputting, and people will be like, oh, well, you shouldn't output because, make mistakes and messes up your the accent or whatever. I don't really care that much, guys. I'm just trying to use the language that I've learned. I've learned it intensely for 3 years, for God's sake. Like, let me just output without any sort of criticism, please. Not that anyone has really criticised me, to be fair. It's a common theme in the community, right? Where people are like, oh, don't output. But honestly, guys, I don't really care about output mistakes and stuff. Like, just go for it. Like, there's people in the community. I think Aussie Man was the other guy who learned Japanese. He's just, you know, outputting all the time, and he didn't really care, and his Japanese is great. I mean, obviously I wouldn't know that because of the whole, I don't speak that good Japanese. You get what I'm getting at, guys. It's not be all and end all if you have like a slight accent. Like, do you take a person really that less seriously because of an accent? I don't really know. I mean, of course you can get perfectionist about it, and of course having a better accent is nice, and definitely do what's best for your language sort of optimization. However, if you're so focused on accent that you don't even want to like write anything, then I feel like you're really missing out on the benefits of actually even learning the language in the first place. Like, why would you learn a language if you're not going to speak it? In the case right here, that's my thoughts on that. Books, really cool. Try not to use media that's related to the internet, like Netflix and YouTube. Like I said, it's just more productive thing to do. It's more sort of self-improvement type thing to do. Gets you on your path to where you need to go rather than just sort of sitting at home, just sort of being a bum kind of thing. And it is good for language learning in the beginning stages. Don't get me wrong, guys. You need to get to that stage. But if you could do it in a more healthy way, that'd be nice. Try not to just sit in your bedroom the whole time. Try and do the podcast stuff outside. Maybe touch some grass, guys. Touch some grass. That's all I'm getting at, really. That's pretty much all I have to say on that. So we'll move on. Let me look at my notes. Being good at one language versus being good at multiple. I would much rather be good at one language than be good at multiple, like all these polyglots are proposing. I think that's most people in the emerging learning community nowadays. I don't really know, but I mean, everyone's got their own goals, right? So I can't really judge. Because I've learned Korean this long, I've sort of found myself becoming more Korean, I guess you could say. I'm never going to be fully Korean, and that's not really what I'm aiming for either. In terms of cultural understanding, I've got that sort of Korean perspective on life. Like behind me, you see this wall, right, of just countries, right? I've got Korean perspective and then the British perspective over here, and it's like I get two little outlooks on life, like a different flavour of life. You know, you get a different flavour of same sort of life, and it's really nice to just have that perspective deepened, enriched and enhanced the more you delve deeper into the language, versus having surface level understanding of, you know, X language there, X language here, but then you're not really identifying with any of their sort of culture. You can get to a little bit of an understanding, and that might just do it for some people, but for me personally, I kind of have to take it the full length. You guys do what you want to do, but I'm really a big advocate of just going the full way, and I want to go the full way, get to the 5-year mark, and then perhaps be a writer in Korean or create something great. English media is always going to be bigger than Korean media. There's a lot more of it, and we're more, in the West we have like loads of like self-improvement, like yeah, do this business, blah, 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 whereas in Korea it's more sort of, YouTube at least is more entertainment focused, and same for, I mean, Netflix is an entertainment platform, but I mean, YouTube isn't necessarily an educational platform, but I feel like the way in the West, we're kind of trying to branch out into more educational stuff on YouTube, whereas in Korea, they do have obviously educational things, but it's less sort of that self-improvement, like, oh, fix your life now, like get rid of 5 hacks that you could do this. Like, it does have those sort of clickbait titles, but it's not the same flavour of life, really. Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up in one little phrase there. Recently, there was a university festival, and I had taken a semester of Japanese at my university, which I mentioned in my last video. If you haven't watched it, please go and do that. I talked to a Japanese person, surprise, surprise, and I was hanging out with these Japanese guys, and eventually I ended up sitting in a massive circle of Japanese people, and using like the few words that I learned, I heard someone like speaking about me, and they said something like, oh, you're really tall, and like it just clicked because I learned some vocabulary and like immersed like very mildly like on my phone, like watching some stuff. It kind of gave me the perspective of, wow, my Korean is like really where it needs to be. I imagine 3 years ago I was struggling like this, like I was with these Japanese guys, and these other Japanese guys and girls, they were speaking Korean to me, and then they have that sort of little Japanese time with they speak their own language, like why wouldn't you? In that moment I was like, wow, I actually understand a fair bit based off my little Japanese study and Korean knowledge, but it's still going back to what it feels like when you're a beginner. Damn, like if I wanted to learn another language, which was perhaps on the cards, I would have to start from pretty much zero again. It's like, wow, could I bring myself to do that again? Could I go through what I've done with Korean for another language? Like, you know, sitting at home, watching TV, just kind of being non-social for the whole time, just focusing all on one thing. Like, obviously that's a great thing to do in life. Like, if you want to, you know, run a business or whatever, you know, focus on your work, you know, do that. I'm totally sure that's a cool thing to do, but, you know, another 3 years of doing that just for the sake of another language, I feel like it's just better skills to be learned. Like, there's just better things I could be doing, fitness or, you know, business or something, I don't know, something that earns you money, or because the language is really cool, but it's still, at the end of the day, just a communication tool you use to communicate with others or experience life through. It's nice, it's like a different flavour, but different flavour of life versus a different flavour of position in society because you're fitter or have more wealth kind of thing is probably something that I'd rather prioritize over learning third language. That's my thoughts now, by the way. So if I get to the 5-year mark with Korean, I'm like, well, I'm done. I need to learn another language because I can't satisfy this need. Then well, we could do another little update video then. But for the time being, gonna crack on with Korean. And yeah, that little Japanese experience thing, that was just really cool. Any of you guys who are AJATers and learn Japanese, maybe we could have some discussions about that, you know, Korean, Japanese, like how similar they are, people who've learned Korean or Japanese. I mean, I haven't actually seen that many Korean immersion learners online versus the Japanese community, so I would like to be someone who represents the Korean immersion learning community. There's a lot of people in the Japanese community. I hope immersion learning worldwide gets kind of bigger through these sort of influencers and people doing their own thing. So I'd like to proudly represent Korean immersion learners out there. I love you guys. Outside of physical books, audiobooks, and meeting people in real life, there's not really that many ways you can immerse offline. I mean, you can probably download a website, but you know, you're still like looking at, you know, screens and stuff. In terms of other ways I can immerse offline, I'm not really too sure about that. It's just kind of experience life just in Korea, in Korean, right? Anything I learn from here on out is just making me sound more native and bringing me more towards that native horizon, but there's not really much impediment on my understanding. I say that because I'm at university right now and I have lectures in Korean where there's words that I do not know, but then I look them up and I don't know them in English as well sometimes. So yeah, I will still say I've got the basic fluency down. What more could you want, really? I mean, some people like me really do want more and are trying to get to that, yeah, I'm gonna be a writer, yeah, I'm gonna do some amazing things and change society. But there are other people who are quite satisfied with my level, and I think that's perfectly okay for you to just stop there. You wouldn't be great then, would you? So I do say it's perfectly okay, but you know, my mindset and the way I am is like, I'm not okay with that personally. Lastly, self-improvement sort of thing, not necessarily related to language learning, but you could probably fit it in. When we were doing this whole AJAT, you know, AKATT, all Korean all the time, we were in the routine of, how can I make this Korean? I'm watching TV, how can I make this Korean? Do I breathe, you know, look into space? How can I listen to Korean while doing that? That was the thing, like always doing the same thing at the same time every day was like really powerful for getting us to where we were. Like you can't just age at, you know, sports. Like you can't just go to the gym 12 hours a day and do the exact same thing, but you can age at a routine where you're doing the same thing at the same time every day. I won't talk too much about it now because I don't want to talk too much about an area that I don't necessarily know or have tried out myself, but I will be trying out using routines such as like, you know, Google Calendar, getting my whole day blocked out and then, you know, managing it that way. So I'll probably give an update on that in the future. Otherwise, guys, I got the podcast with Adamola, my almost a business partner, but yeah, my good friend Adamola. Podcast, you can check that out. Also did an episode on the Refold podcast very recently, so you guys can check that out. I'll link that down below. Any questions you guys have as Korean learners, Japanese learners, French learners, whoever, be sure to let me know in the comments and I will reply to you guys and have a good conversation in the comments. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Bit of a weird video, but yeah, hope you enjoyed and hope you got some value and keep immersing and doing what you're doing. Goodbye.